Hello, Dave here. Welcome to MySQL inner joins. And we're going to go ahead and take a look at a simple and a complex example. I have two tabs here, both pointing to my SQL, PHP MyAdmin, and that's just to be able to see more at one time. I would probably have it on multiple screens because the most complex piece is just the table names and file names. So here I'm going to go ahead and pick my database, and I'm using this database called site-move, and I'll put that on both sides. And here's the tables in here. You'll see there's 11 tables there. This is a standard WordPress database. So we have a structure that's live in over 60 million locations right now. So just trying to use a realistic example. I've loaded some test data, put some test posts out there. Again, this is running on my local XAMPP server. I'm using PHP MyAdmin, but what we're doing here shouldn't matter regardless of what SQL client you're using or which SQL implementation. Because the inner join is basically it's the most basic of the joins, probably the most common. Let's go ahead and give it a brief definition. If we look at a couple of tables, for example, we look at the post table here, we see a whole bunch of columns. And again, just by clicking on the table over here, I default to doing it's doing a select star. So I'm seeing all of the columns and all of the rows. And sorry for flashing that all over the place. So here's our WP post table. And over here, we'll look at the comments table. And we know that when you put a comment out there, you put a comment on a post. So there is a field pointing to the post. And in the comment table, that field is called comment post ID. So doing an inner join between these two tables, and if we do it on the post ID, we could request a result set showing all the rows that have a post in the post table and a corresponding comment in the comments table. And that's the inner part of the join. It has to exist in both tables in order to be returned. And generally, or the reason you do this is because you want a result table that has columns from both tables. So let's pick a couple of columns. We'll do a quick example and make it work. So going to the post table, let's pick a couple of basic columns out of here. I generally always pick the ID just to be able to see it, but we'll pick the ID, we'll pick the post title, and we'll pick the post status. So there's our three WP post fields. So if I go to SQL here, I can say select ID, and this is nice. You see these, here's the field names for this table because I'm at the table level, and that's just a cool feature of PHP MyAdmin, giving us this nice dialogue for writing SQL statements. I mean, if you could do it just on a command line. And again, knowing your table names is probably the most difficult piece. But anyway, I mentioned the ID, I mentioned the post title, and I also mentioned the post status. So there's my fields from WP posts. Well, that's all well and good. And we don't need this where clause, right? And I can go ahead and execute that. And that's the beauty of running select statements. You can never hurt anything. So run away. The worst that can happen is you get an error message. I type go. Oh, so here's the post ID, post title, and post status for all of the posts. And it's only showing me 30 of those right now out of a total of 96. Let's zip over to this other session over here. And here I'm looking at the comments table. And I'll go to SQL here. And from comments, I'm going to go ahead and select comment ID, comment post ID, comment, well, let's go ahead and just get part of, I don't want to get all the text from the content, so I'm going to just do a substring, and from comment content, comma 1, comma, I'll just take the first 10 characters. So starting in position 1 for a length of 10. And I click go. Ooh, and it did not like, ooh, comment ID is not in the field list. Well, notice that I went ahead and deleted everything here. I need my from WP comments, and let's try that again. See, that's the thing. Didn't hurt anything. Just got a little error message. So keep trying. Here we go. And there's my comment ID, comment post ID, and comment content. Now, let's go ahead and put this together. So I'm going to go ahead and it doesn't really matter which one I do it on. And just to have all these field names, I'm going to, well, I'll right click so everyone can see it. I'll copy that information and I'll bring that over here. Now, let's go ahead and put all of these, right? So I have 1, 2, 3 columns from the WP post table, and I want to put that together with 1, 2 columns, 3 columns from the WP comments table. And that's our inner join. And they'll be linked by the post ID. You do need a field common to both tables. So here's the post fields. The first thing we need to do is to give this table, in case there's anything that's named the same, you need to give the table a name. And generally, you just start with A and go A, B, C, D. And each individual field would be A.ID, A.post title, and A.post status from WP post A. And then we want to, and I'll just indent this, inner join. And I did a capital letter there. It doesn't really matter. In fact, inner isn't even necessary. That is the default. I could leave that off. But for the sake of clarity, I'm going to leave it on here since that's the whole video here is inner join. And I'm going to inner join to WP comments, and that's going to be file B. So let's add those columns from file B. So I'll add B dot, let's put this on its own little line here. So I'll get B dot comment, comment ID, B dot comment post ID, and substring B dot comment content, comma 1, comma 10, the first 10 characters. So we say inner join, so this is saying I have file 1 and file 2, right? And I've identified all the columns. The order doesn't matter here. I just did them in that order for the heck of it. And now I can go ahead and now I have to go ahead and tell how this join is happening. This is the critical piece of the puzzle. You do on, that's the keyword. So you got, notice that the keywords are in, what is that, purple there? So on, it's going to be A.ID equal to, because a lot of times this field is named the same in both tables, B dot comment post ID. So since all these fields are really different names, it would know which file it came from. You would not have to tell it where it came from. And there's our simple example of an inner join. You could add where clauses. You could add uh, order by, all the normal SQL features. Let's click go here. And here we go. Here's our table with our multiple values here. So, and notice that there is a value in every column. And that's a different type of join where we would go ahead and select it even if it did not have its comment there. That's another video for another time. The inner join says only return a row, and this is my result table, to the result table when there is a row, matching row from comments and a matching row in post. So there's our very simple example. And let's go ahead and do a quickie complex example just for the fun of it here. And I'm just going to go ahead and plop it in here, show you how to do it. And this is doing a join on multiple tables. Because if we look back, let me just zip back here for a second. Here's the post table. In fact, if I just click, or that's the comments table. If I just click WP post here, you'll see all this post information. And what we don't see here is what category it's in. And that category is a many-to-many relationship because many posts can be in a category in WordPress. And you can have, many posts can be in one category and one post can have many categories. So many-to-many relationship, there's intermediary tables. So what I went and did is I went ahead and put it together. And let's talk about this briefly. And I'm just cutting and pasting it to save some time. And I'll click paste. So there we have 4 tables. I'm just going to do a couple of spaces here. Just to make it clear. Bear with me a moment. Okay, so here we're grabbing, right? I have A and D. So let's run it and then we'll talk about it. So I come over here, I click go. It runs it. And notice that I have the post ID, the post title, and over here I have the actual name of the and it's the taxonomy is what it's called. And that's and there's many different types of values that you can have. I have no order by or anything there. So if we looked at these various posts, right, we would have to go in and see these actual values in the tables, right? If we look at this terms table, you'll see that you have these different names and they're all defined in there. There's term relationships and they're all defined in there, right? Here's the relationship, the object, which is talking about the post, and there's the term taxonomy ID, right? And then we have term taxonomy, which does the term taxonomy ID with the term ID. Anyway, so it gets very complex. The idea here is to see a complex example, and that's why we had to go through these 4 different files to be able to show the actual name value with the actual post data. And that is the category. For example, we could add a where clause on here. I can say where d dot term ID equals 105, and this is just one I happen to be familiar with. Let me click go there. And notice this is one that I added, mini morsel, and I added it to 3 different posts here. That's the name of the category that I placed these 3 posts in there. And these are 3 posts that I put out there. So just to show that you can get complex as you wish, let's take a quick buzz through here and call inner joins understood. So again, here's the columns, and I could pick any column from any one of these 4 files. And so I picked 1, 2, 3, 4 columns from file A and 1 column from file D. And now we have to link all these files together with at least 1 field. Now you can have multiple fields. It could be if a.id equal b.object ID and a dot field 2 equal c dot field or b dot field 25, whatever it might be. So this can be a complex conditional statement here. So we're getting these guys, WP posts, that's my main file. So I started off with that one, and I gave it the letter A. It could be named anything. I do an inner join on WP term relationships, and I'm naming that file B, and I'm linking that together on the ID in file A with the object ID in file B, then doing an inner join with WP term taxonomy C on b.term taxonomy ID equals c.term taxonomy ID, and doing an inner join with that on WP terms, which is file D, on c.term underscore ID equal d.term underscore ID. And again, once we have all these files out there, you can use any combination of A, B, C, and D. But remember, the whole idea here is linking it together by some field that's common between them. So there's a complex example, a real-world WordPress database. That's how the WordPress handles the many relationship between posts and categories, or actually taxonomy. So it's not just categories. If we look at this terms table, it's not in there. Term taxonomy, there it is. Notice that there's some are categories, some are nav menus, some are post formats, some are post tags, right? So all of these things, they're terming those as taxonomy, additional ways of describing the post, and that's a many-to-many relationship with posts, and that's how the database is structured, and that's what we learn with MySQL. So to make a long story longer, let me go back to SQL here, and it's not there, but I can paste that back in so you can see it. And there's our complex example and an inner join, returning all the rows where there's a matched record in all of the files involved. So it has to have a record in all 4 of these files for this one. The very simple example with just 2 files, you need a matched record in both files to create a row in the result table. Questions, comments, concerns, please let me know, dave@davecoast.com, or leave a comment at the bottom of the video. Thank you for watching.